I understand Sobeys has a local development program that aims to curate an assortment of items that are relevant from a regional, provincial, and hyperlocal standpoint. Can you tell us a little bit more about the history of the program and why it's so important to the company?
So I will start with that. So most of you know Sobeys is a local company. It is in our DNA to be local and always support local entrepreneurs. We follow the definition for CFIA, which local is being produced or manufactured within the province that it's being sold in or across 50 kilometers across the border. The other part with that is we know local can innovate very quickly. You heard that from Arlene this morning. You guys have the ability to adapt and pivot your business very quickly to meet our needs, which is part of why supporting local is so important, because we always will have the product in our stores that we need to have.
Okay, thank you very much.
I think if
Stacey?
I could just add something, if that's okay.
Sure.
I think I would use the word grateful. I joined the local team 2 years ago, and they were very much on their path. And it was in the last year and a half at Sobeys, we decided to recommit to our local strategy. The evolution of our program over a number of years, I know has made an impact on many of you, but to see our business recommit internally has meant a lot to the local development specialists, myself, when it comes to strategy. So with this recommitment, we learned very quickly, and it was spoken a lot about earlier today, was we know buying local is important to Canadians. We know it's also really important to the communities that we serve right across the country. It's bringing an economic stability back into those communities. And as Sherry mentioned, it really is in our DNA as the Sobeys family, operating for over that 115 years. So when you think about, well, what does this recommitment mean from the Sobeys organization, and how will this help me as a brand on the scaling component and the commitment component? And really what we did is we took a step back, because we also heard from a lot of you how complicated we could be as an organization to work with. We're vast, we're large, we're dynamic. But with that, by doubling down on this strategy, we got the cross-functional commitment from all of our teams to ensure that local was a part of their strategy. So it wasn't the Sobeys plan or our department's plan, and local ran parallel to it, but really it was an integrated approach. So we are working cross-functionally, and we understand where local sits within our marketing pillar, our merchandising pillar, from community investment, and most importantly, with our operations teams. So now that we have everyone moving in the same direction, momentum will build over time. And the last year and a half, we've seen that pivotal change backstage. And like many things, there's a lagging approach to change, but that will really start to filter down, because we really have the cross-functional commitment and the focus that you need to drive that momentum and the commitment to local.
Thank you. Thank you for answering that, guys. And my second question is, what would you say are the most common challenges that new suppliers face when trying to scale their business and in their aim to get listed at the large retailer like Sobeys? What advice would you give them to ensure that this isn't a barrier?
This is really a hard one, because there are a lot of challenges as you're trying to launch out and work with a retailer. I think some of the most important things to know are, one, what differentiates you? Who is your target customer? Where do you land in a store? Does your product even fit on the shelf? These are all things that, they're crucial to understand to help your business grow. The other, probably most important thing is understanding that costing model. So Arlene talked about not having, have those partnerships, lock yourself in with the people you want to work with, but always have a plan A, a plan B, and a plan C. Because if something happens with plan A, you need something to back up on. If you don't have a backup plan, your product is going to be gone. So those would be the key challenges that we see on a regular basis. And to help support you through that, we have the contacts and resources that we can share with you to sort of help you grow and scale, but we want to make sure that you're growing and scaling at a pace that is comfortable for you. So everybody wants to get out there and be in all of our stores across Ontario and across the country, but in reality, we can list your product for 20 stores if you choose. We can start out small and build a growth plan that will fit for your business and where you are in your capacity and your growth model.
Thank you. So it's actually very important, because usually a lot of people just walk in with just a plan A, and sometimes a plan B, but you're saying that you have to have a plan A, B, and C.
You need to have a backup because going through COVID, so many people were running out of ingredients and jars and lids, and they had no product to supply the stores. And everybody wanted your product because at that time, everybody was looking to support local. Now we know you need to have those plans so that you can pivot quickly and adapt and change if you need to.
Thank you very much, Sherry. Thank you. Next question. What support does Sobeys offer to help new brands succeed in their stores? For example, do you help with the product placement, promotion, or market analysis?
So this is another tricky one for us because we don't guarantee shelf space in our stores. We list your product based on customer needs and customer demands, and it also takes in consideration the store location and what those demographics are and who the customers are and what they're buying. So that is the one key thing with that, but we will provide you best advice on where to go. We have data that we can share with you on these stores would work for you as a starting point.
Okay, thank you. And do you want to weigh in that, Stephanie?
Yeah, I'll just say as well, we're at Sobeys are committed to supporting our BIPOC, LGBT, and female-owned businesses. And really, we have kind of an access point through our local supplier website where you can go in and just kind of fill out a form, and that will go directly to the local development specialists. We have a vested interest in supporting our diverse communities, and it's just another access point that we help link them in with the local development specialists and just kind of give you that access point that we know that you're looking for. Yeah.
All right, thanks. Krista?
Yeah, I think there's a store component I'd build on that too. So it was interesting hearing Andrew talk with Flourish. That's my favorite pancake in the world, by the way. And if my husband forgets the package at home to bring it to the cottage, he might as well not bother coming. So it was funny because Andrew's like, or one of the founders was saying, I didn't realize they really wanted to see us and all these things. Meanwhile, I'm on my phone going to my family chat, guess who's here? It's the founder of Flourish. And then I get the OMG, I can't believe it back. So I think those are those connections that you can make with the stores to really drive that connection and drive the business. And I think that really roots itself in a lot of the success as well.
Thank you. Thank you.
Sorry.
Go ahead.
If I can add one small point, because I think it stems from that, because getting the support from the stores and the operations will drive that data that Sherry spoke to. And that's where some of those challenges of breakthrough, when you think about scalability, buy-in from some of those larger buyers, it could be a really tough slog, I'll say, to kind of go door to door, be told no, talk to operators, franchisees. However, your persistence, and I think Arlene was the one to say, you need to advocate for yourself and your brand, and knocking on those doors could eventually pay off, because once you have the data to support you, those hard numbers are a lot of what those larger buyers are looking for. And when we think about the scalability component, it's an important proof point that you can bring with you forward.
Thank you. Perfect. So I have a next question. So what are your top tips for a successful partnership with Sobeys? How can these entrepreneurs ensure continuous growth and success at branding, as a brand?
I think tip number one from me is, again, the stores. We learned a lot over a number of years how local and small, medium-sized business really flourish, pardon the pun, at the grassroots level. That believability, the partnerships that we have. We know when we have operators, because they're entrepreneurs as well, right? They're running their box, their store, so they very much see an opportunity and have the same incentive as you all to want to grow something. And when they see something, they really get behind it. So I would say definitely start with your stores, your operators, the networking. If you have brokers working for you or with you, you really want to understand what share of time brokers and distributors can allocate to your brand so that they can properly advocate for you too. And there's a number of them that do a really wonderful job. And it allows for an effective and efficient model at a retail chain as well. So there's opportunity there, but you would really want to understand that model. And then the other piece of advice, I think, in terms of tips is we know we have Sherry, obviously, that everyone knows in Ontario, but we have an LDS in all of our core regions, so BC, Alberta, Atlantic Canada. If you go by our booth in the networking hall, all of our LDSs are here, and they have great information to share, but they also know all the tools that will work for a lot of your brands. And it's really about leveraging that. How can I leverage these tools and tell my story? This morning, the founders talked a lot about storytelling and how that was their point of differentiation. And we know that's so key when you think about total value equation. Oftentimes, you think price, but we know there's so much more to the value equation. And I think understanding that position and where you sit within your competitive landscape is really key. So I wouldn't say fixate on your competition, but be aware of who they are and what makes you different so you can carve out your position within that particular market, and then leverage the tools that Sherry and a lot of the LDSs in the Sobeys local program can offer you to activate, because that will give you the platform to tell you your stories and for you to communicate that differentiation.
Those are some great advice. Go ahead.
I do want to add something to that. So I know a lot of people want to work with the brokers and distributors, and having them advocate for you is huge. But as Krista said, it was a big thing for her to be here and see Andrew from Flourish. So I think that's the one thing that you have to consider when you're working with the brokers and distributors. It's also important that you're out visiting the stores yourselves, because building that relationship with the stores will be key to your success in the store as well. It goes back to the storytelling. Like, a broker and distributor can tell your story for you, but they'll never be able to tell your story like you do. And it is a big thing for people to get out there and see you. That's where our demo program is also huge. We run a lot of events in stores where we'll do local food fairs, and getting out to visit with the customers that are buying your product, talk to them. Great opportunity to collect data from them on what they like about your product, what they don't like, what they'd like to see different. These are all ways that you can tap into something that doesn't cost you anything and can give you advice on what you need to do next.
Thank you. Thank you for that. Next question. So keeping on this topic, obviously, that you guys just actually elaborated on, Sherry, another question for you. Can you offer your insight on what the best prices are for building brand visibility for local products with Sobeys? And what is the path for a brand to expand from the local program to a national listing?
So I think from a pricing strategy, you need to understand the market, what similar items to yours are selling for. You don't want to price yourself out of the market. You don't want to underprice yourself either. You want to make sure you're kind of following that mainstream. And I think highlighting what differentiates your product from those other brands is also key. We want to make sure that your product's attainable for the customers to buy. We can't sell something that is outpriced in a retail box. We're a grocery store. Consumers come in, they have a list. The local items that they're finding are not on their list. They're more of an impulse purchase, so it has to be something that catches their eye and makes them want to buy it. So that retail price point really does have to be there. From growing to national, so that is a different process. Our national team is amazing. They are aware of every single local item that we have listed, and they do watch the sales. So we kind of have a threshold of, if they hit a certain sales per year, national will start looking at that item, see if it fits in. We also can go through our categories and talk to the category team about they're looking for new items. We can introduce some of the innovation that our local suppliers are providing and potentially get that in for either national or even into regional planograms.
Anybody else want to add to that? No? All right, thank you. So I have a next question, and this is going to be directed to you, Krista. What would you say are the best or most successful ways for a local supplier to secure store-level support commitments?
That's a good one. So we talked about the connectivity to your brand. So I know I saw Emily here too from Comeback Snacks. I don't know where she went. But, Emily's a good example as well, where she's been out into our stores, telling our story. She's been into our office for sample days. So connecting, face-to-face with the store works hands down because you create that emotional connection. The other thing is store leaders love free demos. That's just how it goes, right? So anyone who's willing to come in and provide their customer an experience and create that experience of a demo in store, the stores will be, highly engaged in that, and that's a great way to really drive that. It's also a key focus for us where we do want local demos in store, and we're really operationally pushing the teams to do that. The product obviously has to be a great product, and then even providing few samples to the store to try and really create that. But those would be the main areas I would suggest.
Okay, thank you. Now, I'm just hoping we can talk just for a minute about distributors, right? So can brands expect to work directly with Sobeys without a distributor? And that for you?
So yes, you can work with us without a distributor, and that's where we have to work within your capacity, because you're producing the product, you're developing more product, you're innovating all of the time. Now you're also dedicating time to deliver to the stores. Ideally, working with a distributor limits the amount of trucks coming to our back door. Our back doors get very busy, as you can imagine. We have deliveries every day. So working with a distributor, a big pro is less trucks coming to our back door. Minimum orders are going to be easily met because they have more product that they're already bringing into our stores. But definitely we don't shy away from somebody that is not working with a distributor. It's just, it's kind of a bonus, but you have to weigh out what is right for your business at the time as well. Distributors are all going to have challenges as well. You need to figure out what is the most important thing to your business at that time and who you want to partner with.
Okay, thank you. Krista, can you please just elaborate from an operations perspective?
Yeah, I think either works, and we work with either for sure. But coming from our history that we have, I know from a store level perspective, our store leaders, franchisees, owners love that connection with the owner and that personal connection. So that definitely helps. There is advantages to distributors and ease. But there's a lot of ways where I think our stores connect really well with directly, particularly if you take the work of ordering from them and are proactive and, they know you by name. That really helps drive their product.
Okay, thank you. Shifting to CPG for a moment, what are some of the defining qualities or characteristics of a successful CPG product in the Sobeys local program?
I think driving sales. So, the good news is we're both after the same things. So you want to sell your products, we want to sell your products as well. It's a differentiator, so your product being local, something different, something unique, something that customers connect with. We want to have that as well. So really that growth mindset is what we would look at as true success. So the entrepreneur wanting to grow and being, almost really tenacious about the growth, that's a large component and very positive for us. And again, back to the demos and store engagement, I can't sell that enough in terms of being successful with the stores, and that's where our customers are.
Thank you. Go ahead.
I also think with that, at the end of the day, it's about making it easier for the stores. They're the ones that are helping to sell your product. So we want to make things as simple for them as possible. And the more support you can give that store, the better, whether it's through the demos or the delivery process or the ordering process or simply restocking your shelves for them as well. There's all sorts of little things that you can do along the way that will really help the stores. And believe me, they know that and they recognize when the brands are helping them out with things.
Thank you very much, Krista. Thank you, Sherry. So my next question here, many of our entrepreneurs have learned a lot from the process of working directly with larger retailers. What kind of feedback does Sobeys provide to local suppliers to improve their product performance?
I think I'll jump in there.
Sure.
And I think I'll start with, we also learn a lot from all of you. with all of the conversations that we unpack, some of the challenges that you all face in navigating large retailers, and for us also learning how to help scale you. What was mentioned a lot earlier this morning with just the saturation of products that cross so many buyers' desks. And I feel that Sobeys has done a really great job because our local development specialists really spend dedicated, curated time with all of you. I'm proud to work alongside all of them because not only do they provide industry support using our connections, our partnership with Venturepark. When I think about our GS1 connections, how do we navigate that question of how do I get a UPC? What is the front of pack changes that are coming up, the new regulation? And we can be a conduit, and it takes time, and I know it's a lot of time that each member of this team dedicates, but they're so dedicated to providing you with the answers. And if time is of a limitation, we've curated so many relationships within each of our core regions.
Thank you very much. Thank you. So, Sherry, do you want to elaborate on that too?
I would add like the growth and the performance data that we can provide. So I know earlier it was they didn't want to throw anyone under the bus for providing some sales data to give you that growth and help you understand where you fall in our stores. It is a service we do provide you. We can give you your sales data, and that's how we gauge what we need to do next. Like, where do we need to go? Is it get out and do more demos in the stores? Do we have you in the right stores? That's one of the biggest things. You could be listed in the wrong stores and we need to try a different market. There's different ways that we can use the tools that we have and share with you to help you grow and give you that performance data so that you can only get better at what you're doing right now.
Great, thank you. Go ahead.
That's a really great point, and that's shared back with the operations groups as well, which is myself, my team, the stores, and we have really great, with the work that Sherry does, that visibility, because obviously we all have budgets to achieve, in partnership, and our stores have budgets to achieve, so we'll be looking, holistically to say, hey, this line is doing really well in these 20 stores it's in. Sherry, maybe we should have it everywhere. So we really built on it. That's right. Sherry's,
Now you know how we all grow in Ontario.
What's that?
Now they know how we grow in Ontario.
Yeah, that's right.
Nice.
I think I just blew it. Because you see success and you just want to perpetuate that. It's great for us. So that reporting that you work with Sherry on, it really, spreads so much further because it provides us visibility to where we have growth opportunities.
Okay, thank you very much, guys. My next question. So increasingly, investors are looking for companies that tie their financial performance to defined and measurable ESG, also known as environmental, social governance targets, right? So would you say that this is a priority with Sobeys, and how is it that it's connected to the company's approach to working with supplier partners hoping to get listed?
Yeah, so we, by nature, are doing a lot of the things within the ESG world. So we have a commitment to supplier diversity. We have climate action goals. We have a really invested focus in plastics and packaging. And so I'll go to supplier diversity as a starting point. So we, a few years ago, recognized that we had the need to accelerate our DE&I through our business outcomes and really connect and reflect with the communities that we serve in our business practices. And so we started to just talk to suppliers, and what we found when we talked to BIPOC, LGBT, female-owned businesses is that they're looking for a lot of the things that Arlene and Robin had spoken about earlier today: access to capital, retailers, distributors, mentorship, insights, resources. They're also really looking to maintain a sense of cultural identity, and a lot of their innovations come from their backgrounds. And so when we unpeeled the layers internally, we noticed that we were actually doing a lot to support and meet those needs of those communities through our local development program and our local development specialists. And so we really are focused on kind of leveraging our partners internally with Venturepark, with some other internal partners. We are corporate members of certifying agencies. So I'm not going to say all of the, I'm just going to say the acronyms. They might be familiar to them, might not be, because there's a million of them. CGLCC, CCIB, CAMZ, We Connect International. And we're also one of the only retailers and largest organizations to be going through PAR certification with the Canadian Council for Indigenous Business. What that means is that we've committed to economic reconciliation and Indigenous relations total enterprise-wide, and part of that is Indigenous sourcing. So we're building out a strategy internally with our local development team to really be intentional on how we can show up in the space. I would also say, too, that the food industry is challenging. We heard about that again earlier this morning, and we know that there's systemic barriers that are there. So I think a responsibility we have from an ESG standpoint is to be examples and be vocal and have those conversations and sit on the panels and gather our industry partners together to have a conversation on diversity in the Canadian food and beverage space. So that's a role that we really want to play within Canada. And then I think we have, climate action. There's much more on that. I think I'll get into that a little bit later.
Okay, perfect. Thank you. Now, I do have a next question. Pretty much almost ties into the question you just answered, because you did talk about diversity and certain communities. So my question is, supporting diverse suppliers and elevating brands with distinct cultural identities is such an important part of being a retailer that, serves diverse communities. Can you talk for a few minutes just about the approach Sobeys Locals takes in working with diverse-owned businesses, as well as working with suppliers of so-called ethnic foods and niche growing categories like halal?
Yeah, so back to the point of the local development specialists, those are really the access point internally with us. And we have internal commitments and a focused effort to make sure that we're paying attention to that. So I would say that you as a supplier, really be proud of your background and identity and what you bring to the table from just your experiences that you've had in your life. I think that's a really strong story, and sometimes may be undervalued. You might think it might be undervalued, but it's a really important value proposition to us at Sobeys. And we really want to, see and help and help you flourish. I'm going to use the word flourish. Flourish is getting a lot of free marketing today.
It's a good pancake.
Yeah, so I guess it's a good branding strategy. So yeah, I would really, really encourage you to talk with them. I would also say that we're really, again, doubling down on our commitment to economic reconciliation and working with Indigenous entrepreneurs. And again, when we look to see who we have from an Indigenous entrepreneur base within Canada, is quite low. So we're really focused on development. And I think if you look to see the cohort that's coming out, I think it's Venturepark cohort 18, that's just kind of launching now, there are a lot of Indigenous suppliers on that cohort. And I think that speaks volume into just the conversations we've been having to date and just placing more focus on that. So hoping that we can build on that momentum and really be a part of it.
Okay, thank you very much. Go ahead.
Just add a point, if
Yes.
that's okay. I think Stephanie made a lot of keynotes, and I think what's foundational and why it's probably relevant to the local development program and future state is we really understand that the strategy is about just localizing the offer, and we know the convergence of multicultural and local. Really, though, probably at a wider parallel many years ago, have just such a cross-section now, and in many instances are one in the same. So we're really starting to understand that convergence that's happening, and I know even our operators, Krista, are trying to understand and curate their local assortment and how is it continuing to evolve to make sure that we're showing up accurately for the communities. And as Canada continues continues to evolve and change. We know the assortment that will come from this grassroots level, be it local or not, will all kind of be representative of kind of that multicultural space, and we want to make sure, and I think we're positioned well to accurately support and continue, like I said, the education component, which is paramount to our program, and really just make sure that we're not just thinking 1 year ahead, but 3 and 5 years ahead, and what does the localization of the offer look like, based on the definition that Sherry kind of alluded to at the beginning of this panel, and how will our assortment be curated, and how will our partnerships just continue to evolve.
Can I just expand on that, just thinking about our 3-year evolution, what we'll be looking for. From a sustainability perspective, there is a lot of things that we're also looking at internally, just as brands here in the room, just something to kind of think about, because we hear the topic ESG, but what does that mean from a retailer perspective, and what does that mean for you? And so Sobeys has committed to be net zero by 2050 for Scope 3 emissions, which means by 2050 we will have achieved total decarbonization of our supply chain. So, wow, that's a lot. And there's a lot of companies that have committed to that. But it will really be essential that we have close collaboration with suppliers, close collaboration internally, and close collaboration with the industry. And so that can be quite daunting as a small entrepreneur who's just, dealing with everything that you have to deal with already, to then all of a sudden have these commitments that are coming fast and furious within the sustainability space. So what we're doing internally is, and this is to come, so for all the local suppliers in the room, what we're looking to do is help equip you with some resources to navigate what climate action means, what plastics and packaging mean, and how can we partner with you to help make sure that you're able to kind of meet these really large commitments in a digestible manner for yourself. So that's something that we're working on. There's more to come. We're really excited about it. It's an emerging space. So yeah, stay tuned.
Thank you. Sherry, would you like to add to that?
I was just going to add, so this year we launched an e-learning series for our local entrepreneurs, and it's open to suppliers, whether they're working with us or just in process or just having conversations. So our next session actually is on sustainability. So something that definitely watch for that to come out. It is shared with Venturepark as well. So if you're interested, we do offer sessions to help you learn. We don't just sit and talk about it. We actually do help coach you and guide you through everything as part of our support to local.
Thank you. Thank you. Krista, do you want to add to that?
I was going to say it's like an episode of Bridesmaids. Did you guys see that movie? I'll just add to that. So I think, one thing that I would build on is in the multicultural space and, Indigenous suppliers, ethnic, et cetera. That is a very sought after space for our operators in store. So, there may have been a time when, some of you may have thought that product may be too niche to sort of cover many markets, et cetera, et cetera. I would say to you that's not the case now, and our operators are very in tune with the communities in which they serve, and I would encourage you to, with conviction, be comfortable to approach us / the stores on your unique products that sort of fit into the space we're chatting about, because it's I can assure you they, i.e. operators, want it as much as you do.
And that's also where the uniqueness of our program, being able to list you in 20 stores, we can really target that product to the right store to make sure it's going to be successful, and work with the stores to help you get to the point you need to be. And then word of mouth through the stores, or Krista saying, hey, these items are doing really well, let's spread it across Ontario. That's how you get your growth. That's how we build the program, and that's sort of where that success will come from.
Okay, thank you. Perfect. So we've got about 12 minutes, so we do have some time for obviously some more information that you guys can actually, give to our audience. So before we wrap up, obviously, do you guys have any more information to share about your local supplier development program? Anybody?
This would be when you flash our emails up there.
Sure.
We'll put Krista's up, okay?
Or they can go to the booth.
I would also say, so we have a sustainable business report online available to everyone. It has all of our commitments from local supplier, ethical sustainable sourcing, diversity, equity, inclusion, health and safety. It's all there, and it's a really awesome report that a lot of people put a lot of time and effort into building and actioning on. So I would encourage you to check that out. If we were savvy enough, we would have had the QR code up here, but but definitely check that out. It has a lot. And I would say also that when you're approaching a retailer, learn about their values, learn what's important to them, go through that sustainable business report, and kind of highlight some of the things that you can bring to those strategies and the actions that retailer has in place.
Okay. Anybody else?
I think shameless plug, but I don't mind saying it. So in June, we're going to be hosting a trade show, and that's where you'll have access to over 200 Sobeys and Foodland operators. And, Sherry has the information on that because she does such a great job of it every year. And that's a place that I'd really encourage if you want a good bang for your buck, like, yes, going personally to stores, but that's a great place to register and be part of, because you have a full afternoon with all of the retailers, district operators, the directors, and this team here. So it's very advantageous. So that is another good space to grow.
Okay, thank you guys. Go ahead.
I think one final thought I'll leave you with, and I know we talked about the evolution of our program and our next phase. So I think the one thing I want to say is continue to be open and honest with us. I know many of you are, and the feedback is so critical. As I had alluded to, and I think we talk a lot about how vast we are and it's hard to navigate, but we want to do better by all of you, and we're working on processes and how do we get ease of scalability where it makes sense, when it makes sense, because as we all know in this room, space is finite, but we also know that there's a lot of great innovation, and in order for us to be a successful retailer, being a differentiator, being an innovator is paramount for us to continue to grow within the space. So understanding the challenges that you bring to us will help us continue to unlock the pathways for us to be more effective and efficient for all of you when the time is right, and when it's most meaningful. The last thing we want to do as a large retailer is scale you too quickly and break you, because that's not something any of us up here want to stand for or have an impact on. So we want to do it responsibly, in a meaningful way, in a way that makes sense for your business model and our own. We mentioned a lot that we all have P&Ls to manage and budget, but I think Arlene said it in the morning session. You need to learn when to say no and when it is right to say yes. And when you go coast to coast with a national retailer, supply chain logistics from Newfoundland to Vancouver Island are very complex. So understanding what that means for all of you. So sharing everything from your perspective is very helpful for us to continue to learn and grow and better support you. So I think that's a final thought in that position I would leave.
Thank you. Perfect. Go ahead.
Yeah, and we truly do value our partners, like truly and sincerely. And I think that's a really great point, is we want the feedback. We want the feedback in store. It's nothing's ever a failure, I always say. It's the opportunity. So how do we work better together? And what do we need to do to support each other differently if something is required? Because anytime you have that dynamic tension happen to it, it means you're at a stage of growth. So that's a really, really positive thing. And we never look and say, oh, they can only go to 20 stores. That's not a statement that comes out. It's, if it was 5 stores, because that's where a good test environment is for you and for us, that's perfectly okay. And then, Sherry and team work very closely to help you grow and evolve and expand should you so choose to do that. So I think, nothing's off limits, and you guys don't say that. No, but really nothing's off limits, because we want to have that dialogue. We're a sort of a family of support. It's how the organization was built, and it's just inherent in the DNA when you work there at Sobeys. So I think you'd be surprised. And again, Andrew's comment kind of, or I don't think it may have been Andrew this morning that said it, but that they were surprised, I think it was Stephanie, surprised that somebody wants to speak with the founder. And of course they do. Like, you're very important to the store. So I think that's a key thing to keep in mind.
I think the nothing is off limits is right, because even if you start in 5 stores and you want to stay in 5 stores, you can. We don't put the pressure on you to grow either, so I don't want anyone to get the wrong idea on that. If you want to launch in 5 stores and that's your goal for the next 10 years, that is also okay and something that we can work with.
Okay, nice, thank you. So we're actually concluded our questions, but obviously because we still have about 7 minutes left, I'm just going to throw a question at you guys and just give us, your heartfelt answer. What inspires you and what drives you to work at Sobeys?
Do you want me to go first?
Each of you have to answer that.
Okay. That's a tough one. So there's so many things, but honestly, it's the people. So the people in the organization are truly, so what you hear today, I mean, we might have a few notes that we reviewed, but we don't have to sit and totally script ourselves, because it's just part of who we are and how we show up, so we can speak very easily to concepts such as this. But definitely the people, even national suppliers as well, but certainly local suppliers, and working face to face. And even, Emily presented one of our vendors presented at our conference this year, because, it was just important to hear her story. And you build families with the people you work with, the customers that you interact with, and the supplier partners. So that's the values match my DNA, I think, which is all of those things.
Very good answer, Krista. Thank you.
Go
ahead.
I'm next. I didn't have enough time to think. So I am probably one of the newest members on this panel to have joined the Sobeys organization, joining in 2020, being in grocery retail my total career, but joining in 2020 and coming into a national retailer, you really don't know what to expect. But I think, Krista, you made a great point. People do make it what it is. But what is also really inspiring to work for this organization, and I think it's been an evolution through time, is the clarity in the strategy. We really know the direction in which we're going and where we want to lean in and support, and that allows us to do our jobs well, allows us to be transparent with the supplier community, with our other partners that we deal with, because we really know that we're all talking the same language. We're moving holistically together. Is there missteps along the way? Absolutely, because the climate in which we operate is challenging and difficult and nuanced, but having the consistency and support from leadership top down has, I think, just allowed us the confidence to make decisions and make sure that we can just make some bold moves within this space, and you're supported to do so. So I think the culture, the values, and the clarity from such a large retailer and all of our banner brands that we get to show up as is also a pretty cool nuance, because we're so nuanced from our discount channel with FreshGo, our e-commerce Voila, community banners, our full service Sobeys Safeway platform, Thrifty Foods. Like, there's just so many, and it's exciting that they all have their own identity. When you think about our franchisees from Quebec, Ontario, Foodlands, and IGAs, it's so cool. But even within that, we have the consistency of the strategy. We can show up differently, but all be moving holistically. So I think that's one of the main benefits.
Thank you for that. All right, go ahead.
Well, Frank, I just love this industry. I was in nutrition in university, and the thought of becoming a clinical dietitian, frankly, bored me. It's like snooze. So I remember talking to someone, and this was really that why in the road, and they said, well, what about the food industry? You're in Nova Scotia. I'm based in Nova Scotia. Sobeys is based out of Nova Scotia. Like, what about that? And it just ignited a spark, and I have not looked back since then. So it's really a wonderful industry to be in, and it's such a machine behind that shelf, and you're all part of it, the machine that's just turning constantly, and all the different inputs from suppliers to customers to different banners to our warehouses to transport and logistics to ESG. Like, there's just so much, and it's really exciting to be a part of it and to be moving in that fast pace. And there's always something new and challenging and exciting being thrown your way. And things are always moving in different directions. And so it's fun to just kind of pivot with it.
Okay, thank you for that. Last but not the least.
Last but not least, and I think I've probably been with Sobeys the longest of everyone here. I'm at over 30 years. Yes, I was 5 when I started. I think my first response to this would be, I just love food. I've worked in every aspect of retail, from being in the stores, being a cashier, going out and getting carts and bringing them in the middle of winter, all huddled up in the Sobeys winter jacket, to going into the office. And I think right now what inspires me the most is I learn something new every single day from the people I work with. I talk to so many people, and the industry is incredible. It's challenging and it's scary working with local entrepreneurs every day, because I don't know what that phone call is going to be. Is it good news? Is it bad news? But I think that what they've taught me for the last 8 years has been amazing, and it's actually helped me grow and develop. I look at the changes from when we started the local program to where we are now, and it's evolved so much, and I'm excited for where it's going to go in the next 5, 10, 15 years. We also have a plan for plan A, B, and C, so there you go.
I like that.
Everybody's got to have that 5-year plan.
Nice, thank you so much. Well, I want to thank the panelists for such insightful information, and I want to thank you, Sobeys, for always supporting Canadian entrepreneurs. Now, once we actually take our break, feel free to go to the networking hall. There is actually the Sobeys booth available. Don't be shy, network, get some information that could be beneficial for you and for your business. I thank you so much, guys. Please give them a round of applause.